Welcome to the Mike Litton Experience podcast. Mike has over 31 years experience in real estate, finance, and investing. He's passionate about being a father, a teacher, a realtor, an investor, and a leader. Everyone has a story, and our passion is to help them tell it. And now, introducing the host of the Mike Litton Experience, Mike Litton.
So what can you expect from the Mike Litton Experience? You can expect stories that will inspire, motivate, advice that will sharpen your focus, and expert information on real estate, finance, and market conditions.
Jason Wood, Mike, it's so great to have you on the Mike Litton Experience. I really appreciate you doing this, and I thank you for your time. So, like we talked about before we hit record, we're all about the story that people have. Everybody has a story, and our passion is to help them tell it. So with your permission, we're going to start where you were born, go all the way through your life story, if that's okay, and then we can talk about some of the cool things that you're doing here in San Diego. Is that all right?
Sounds great.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So let's start with where you were born.
So I was born in Reno, Nevada.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool
grew
place.
up there. Yeah. It's a great place. I grew up there. I didn't leave Nevada till I was 32, I think.
Okay.
When I finally moved away.
Okay.
But born and raised there.
Is it the biggest little city in America or something
Biggest
like
little
that?
city in the world.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
There you go. That's cool.
So it's interesting, and if you haven't lived there, you probably don't understand that saying.
Never
right?
lived there.
But having lived there, now that saying makes sense, right? Because the city functions like any small town.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is, in fact, I was just there for Thanksgiving, right?
Okay.
So you can literally like walk into any restaurant or grocery store or something, and you're gonna know like 4 or 5 people.
Okay.
Like instantly. I went and met a couple of buddies for a drink right before Thanksgiving that I hadn't seen in a little while, and ran into a guy at the bar I worked with in college, and then as I'm leaving, run into another fraternity brother of mine that I served with in the National Guard as I was walking out the door. So literally like 4 people I knew, like it always happens,
cool.
right?
That's
so
cool.
It functions like a small town in that sense, where you kind of know everybody,
that's
but
cool, man.
it operates on a little bit bigger scale than the smallest towns. So, but yeah, Reno's a great place. I mean, a lot of great outdoor stuff, close to Lake Tahoe, coastal Northern California. Like we used to vacation a lot in Northern California, camp and all that stuff growing up. But yeah, that's where I was born and raised. So, you know, all my school and everything there, and went to Reno High School, and it was, you know, kind of then like my military journey kind of began.
Okay.
And then ended up going to University of Nevada, Reno.
What was your favorite thing about growing up in Reno?
Gosh, I think my favorite thing about growing up in Reno is skiing.
Okay.
I'm a big snow skier.
Okay.
So my parents got me involved in that, I think when I was 3 or 4.
So is Heavenly where you go to ski?
Heavenly's close.
Okay.
It's actually not my favorite resort.
So Heavenly's in Tahoe.
It's in Lake Tahoe, yeah. Heavenly's in Lake Tahoe. There's a lot of ski resorts in that Lake Tahoe area.
Oh, okay.
The one that's closest to Reno is called Mount Rose Ski Resort.
Okay.
So literally it's like 30 minutes.
There you go.
And you're on the ski hill.
There you go.
And so like through the elementary schools had like a partnership with them where
cool.
growing up during the winter, you got like a day off of school to go up and learn how to ski.
That's awesome.
Parents had to pay for it, of course.
Yeah.
But you were excused from school, like I think it was like on Thursdays.
Oh, wow.
So they started me skiing really young, and then of course I did that program all through elementary school and continued skiing from there. But that's one thing I totally love.
That's awesome.
Ski, yeah.
So who was the most influential person to you growing up?
Gosh, I would say probably my grandfather.
Okay.
Yeah, my dad's dad on my dad's side.
Okay.
Really accomplished, very successful in all of his endeavors. But probably the reason he was such a big influence on me is what I heard about him from others.
Wow.
And that really resonated with me kind of in my growing years, understanding that, you know, the way that I conduct myself, present tense, people are going to resonate positively or negatively with that down the road, right? And have a perception of me.
Yeah.
And just everywhere I went, and anyone I talked to who knew my grandfather only had praise to say about him, what a great man he was, and all his accolades and stuff. And so that had a big influence on me.
What did he do?
He his business, he actually owned a bus line. You know, shipping charter buses, you know, shipping people all over the place. And kind of a long story, but they ended up becoming kind of a California and Nevada bus operation tour.
Okay.
And where they really kind of hit full throttle with that down the road is, they're busing people in from the San Francisco Bay Area to the casinos in Reno.
Yeah.
And Lake Tahoe.
Yeah.
And so they had those bus routes going on. And there's kind of a lot to that story. My dad grew up in the business and ended up helping run it and everything else. So that's what he did for his professional career. And then he was also involved in politics. So he is a state assemblyman.
Your granddad?
My grandfather.
Okay.
Yeah, for a few different years. I think he did 6 years, 3 terms.
Wow.
I think. And so there's a proclamation named after him by the governor and stuff. And but yeah, that's what he did. And then he was also a pilot, just privately. So he was really into aviation. And if you ever heard of the Reno Air Races, so he was one of the founding members setting up the Reno Air Races, which is a big, I don't know if you've ever seen on ESPN, like the Red Bull airplane that races around the pylons and stuff. Yeah. So they have that there.
Oh, wow.
So it's a race, and it's an air show.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, so it's an air race.
Okay.
So there's different classes.
Is that the one where they fly and they have to fly through like these big hoops or whatever and around stuff and like they have a course kind of thing?
Yeah,
okay, I've seen.
Yeah, so I've seen like old P-51 Mustangs all souped up and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So he was one of the founders of setting up the Reno Air Races.
Wow.
And
that's cool.
Yeah, so it was really cool. And he was involved in also getting the University of Nevada moved. Gosh, I think University of Nevada originally started in Elko, Nevada, which is way east, and getting it moved and set up in Reno. Super long time ago.
My son's best friend just graduated from there.
No kidding.
With his master's degree, and he got his master's degree there too.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's cool.
That's cool, man. That's awesome. What a small world.
I know.
So growing up with a grandfather that had such a large profile, and being a politician, and right, what was that like?
As a kid, I didn't know any different.
Yeah.
He was Papa to me, right? So,
Didn't everybody's granddad serve in the assembly?
Well, yeah, I wouldn't have really known that until I got older and started understanding government and things like that and learning about it in school. And then my grandfather never really, I don't remember having much conversation with him about it. My dad really was the one who would tell me about that part of his life.
Yeah.
Because I was always asked what it was like working for him in the bus business and everything else, and that kind of parlayed into that. And then between him and my dad, of course, they knew all the big who's who business owners, the owners of the casinos and everything else, because they had to work with them, and those were the power players in the town at that time.
Yeah.
So they were very well connected on top of it. So I kind of learned that as I got a little bit older. But as a kid, he was just grandpa, right? We'd go camping with them, and one of my fondest memories was always getting his house set up for Christmas.
Okay.
So I would go over there and we'd help decorate the tree, and he had this really cool train set that we would set up all around the living room,
cool.
and get to play with the trains and stuff like that. So
trains are a big deal when you're a kid.
They were a big deal. And they used to take us to the train museum.
For some of us, it's a big deal now that we're big kids.
I know. They're cool. But yeah, that's what we would do.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was really fun.
That's cool. So you go to Reno High. What was your favorite subject?
Oh gosh. My favorite subject probably was music.
Okay.
Because it was the easiest for me.
Okay.
So that's probably everyone has their God-given talent, right? So for me, it was music.
Yeah.
And ironically enough, my grandfather and my dad were really good at music too, so it's inherent, right? But I played the trumpet.
Okay.
And I started playing it in 6th grade. It was funny. So in 6th grade is when they introduce you to that, right? And they assign instruments in alphabetical order. Well, my last name is Wood, so I'm at the end of the list, right? And my best buddy...
Did you have the last pick?
I had the last pick.
Oh, bummer.
So my best buddy in elementary school had actually been playing the trumpet for 2 years. And his last name began with a B. So when it came to him, he's like, trumpet, they're like, done, good.
Right.
And it got to me, and they're like, the only thing left is clarinet.
Oh my
And
God.
I didn't know any different. I didn't even know what the instruments were at 6th grade. So I come home and I tell my dad, look, I'm going to play the clarinet. He's like, hell you are.
Oh.
You're not playing that clarinet. So he came to school with me the next day and talked to the music teacher. He's like, my son will play the trumpet. And that's the end of that conversation.
Wow.
Yeah.
Really? So why was he, and he played the, okay, so he played the trumpet. That's what you grew up with. I got you. Okay.
So that's what I learned.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah. It's kind of a funny story. And then,
it's hard to play. I tried to play the trumpet.
I tried to play it again because my kids wanted me to.
I tried to play, dude, my goodness. you know. Anyway, it wasn't for me.
So that was probably my favorite because it was easy for me. Like I was always the top chair. I was in the jazz band, the concert band, the marching band. I mean, I was at school at 6 a.m. For doing all that. But that was probably one of my favorites, to be honest, because it's interesting. There's actually a movie my kids like. It's a Disney movie. I forget the name of it now. But the guy is a piano player, right? And he's a school band teacher, and he talks about in there kind of like when you're playing and you really kind of get in the zone, like you kind of go to like this different headspace. And
it's true.
It's really true.
Yeah.
And I just now watching that movie with my kids, and then I think about when I was playing all the time, like, oh my gosh, like that's such a real thing. And I didn't realize it really, I don't think then, but
looking back, it's
and now I can see it.
2020,
right?
That's cool.
Oddly enough, my worst and my most hated subject in school was math, and I always flunked it and always had to retake it in summer school just so I could get to the next grade level. And today I use math all day every day.
I was just about to say, you do know, being in the mortgage business, you use math all the time.
I'm actually really good at it. But yeah, then when you had to learn shapes and angles and, you know, A plus Y equals C, and like, I didn't get any of that. But now when it's a practical use, like I'm actually pretty good at it. But.
So I was in the mortgage, I told you I started the mortgage business 31 years ago plus, and February will be 32. And I went to school at Redlands night school to finish my bachelor's degree. And I was at the point I was doing, I was incredibly busy in the mortgage business and doing a ton of volume and all this kind of stuff. And what made me think I could take on, you know, evening classes or whatever, I'm probably a little nuts, but you probably know that.
We all are,
right?
Yeah.
So, but the one class that I looked at on the itinerary that I was the most intimidated by was statistics, business statistics. I don't know what it was. I don't know. Maybe it was horror stories in the past that people had told me, whatever. But statistics was I was just completely intimidated. After the first class, the professor walked up to me and said, you really could just teach this.
No kidding.
You really don't need me. And I'm like, dude, right? He goes, I think you'd be an amazing professor. And he goes, and I think you should teach statistics. And he goes, so if you're okay with it, I'm going to have you come up, and as we go through this over the next, and it was 4 weeks. I think every class was like 4 weeks, right? And so he's like, what we'll do is we'll have you come up and we'll have you teach part of the classes, and I'm like, okay, right? Wow. So I literally ended up there. He was with me, of course, but I literally ended up there, and he went to Redlands and said, we should hire him to teach this. The problem was it was a huge cut in pay, right? Yeah. But being in the mortgage business prepared me like I couldn't believe for statistics. I had no clue what it was until I got into it, but I literally sat there the first class and just went, I got this, right? I mean, it was crazy.
Here we come, right?
It was crazy, Yeah. But it was one of those things where all those years I had been intimidated by that, right? I mean, it had been 13 years since I graduated from high school, and I was, here I was I had this all built up in my mind. Mortgage business trained me for statistics. It was crazy. Anyway, so
that's cool.
Kind of nuts, huh?
Yeah.
Anyway,
yeah.
So you use math every day, all day, every day, right?
Yeah.
So math was actually a strength of mine in school, in high school, but it was, anyway, so crazy. So your least favorite was math. Your favorite was music. So you graduate from, did you play sports in high school?
Yeah, so I played football and I played soccer in high school till I turned 16. My parents were like, you can keep playing sports or you can drive. And I'm like,
ooh, that's an interesting choice.
Okay. Easy. I mean, for a 16-year-old who wanted the freedom, easy day. So I didn't play sports past my sophomore year, which, thinking back, I'm like, oh man, that was kind of dumb. But like, hey, I wanted my freedom and got my first job and, had a car.
You started learning how to adult, right?
Yeah.
So, wow, that's wild. So, that's an interesting choice they gave you. So did you have a favorite sport before you stopped playing?
I grew up playing soccer my whole life.
Yeah.
So I really, really love soccer. And I didn't really get into many other sports growing up. until I got to like, middle school age, 7th, 8th grade. And then I was kind of had some interest in other stuff, and I interested in baseball, interested in football, and I'd never played it before. So, so I started playing both then, and our high school baseball team was like one of the best in the state during the era I was in school. And so the coaches and everything were great, and it was hard to make the team. And I had some natural ability with throwing the ball. Like I just had a cannon for, a young kid. And so I did try out for the baseball team and made it to the final cuts. Not even knowing, like I was trying out at second base, and like during warm-ups, we'd be in the outfield, throw it and step back and throw it and step back and throw it and step back. And before you know it, I'm throwing it from left field to right field just on a laser beam. And so then I'm out there trying out for second base, and the coach comes up and he's like, Wood, why are you trying out here? You should be in the outfield. He's like, why aren't you out in the outfield trying out for the outfield? I'm like, well, it's boring in the outfield.
There's no action, coach.
There's nothing happening out there. I'm like, there's stuff going on here. He's like, but you got a cannon. You should be in the outfield. Like he was trying to give me the hint, right? Yeah. I didn't take that.
Well, being in the outfield, I mean, I played third base. I played outfield, right? Outfield, you're back there and you're backing up the guys on the infield. All the action is where you're watching, right? You're watching all the action take place, right? And it's like, yeah, I don't blame you. I mean, they started me in outfield, and then I worked my way to third base, and I really enjoyed it. So I don't blame you.
Yeah,
that's exactly what I did,
Yeah, well, I didn't make the team, but
well, you tried.
I tried. So my baseball experience wasn't too long, and football, it was probably a blessing in disguise. I didn't continue playing because I didn't grow really until after I graduated high school.
Oh, really?
So I was the second smallest guy on the team. Like I was just everyone's punching bag, So I could run fast, but it didn't. I was just so small.
Yeah.
Like I was just the third string, and I just get blasted all over town. So I didn't continue.
Good for character, though.
It was good for character. You know what? Actually, playing football made a couple other journeys in my life much easier.
Yeah.
Like the fraternity I joined, going to basic training, like because of like doing double days in high school, and on top of that, I was in the marching band, so I'd go do 2-a-days, and then I'd come back to school at night for practice. All before the semester even started in the fall, I was at school like 12 hours a day for 3 weeks, so it really like conditioned my mind.
It's amazing how it prepares you for life. Here's what you can do. Yeah. And I wasn't the punching bag, but I was very, very, very good at football. And my freshman year, I went out and they wanted me to play, and I went to my family doctor, and the family doctor found a degenerative family inherited thing, a degenerative disease in my knees, and so I wasn't cleared to play.
Oh, wow.
It was the best thing that could have happened to me.
Sure.
Hindsight being 20/20, at the time I was devastated, right? But football is a big, big thing to me. I grew up playing it in Oklahoma, and we all wanted to play for Barry Switzer, and right.
Yeah.
So So anyway, but yeah, football will prepare you for life. And my son went out for freshman football, and there's actually a story about it on our podcast. But he goes out for freshman football. He's never been a football fan before. He didn't even watch it on television. And the only games he went to were the ones he had to go to because his sister was a junior cheerleader at San Diego State, right?
Yeah.
At Qualcomm Stadium or whatever. And so he comes home and he tells us, and we're kind of like, really? Right?
Right.
And the first thing I asked him was, I said, is there a girl involved? Because, all the stupid stuff I ever did in my life, there was a girl involved, right? Yeah. That I was trying to impress, right? Turned out it was his best buddy, David, who graduated from University of Nevada at Reno with his bachelor's and master's degree. David wanted to go out for football, and he wanted Michael to go with him, go out with him. So he did, because Michael's a really good friend. David will tell you, he's a really good friend. And so they go out for freshman football. They have 2-a-days, and it's real hot here during 2-a-days, right? And I know, having done it a lot, that he's probably going to need me at the end of 2-a-days. So at the end of 2-a-days, Friday night, I go pick him up from practice. He slams the door of my brand new F-150. Now I have a thing about people slamming doors, period, right? But the brand new truck, I mean, come on, man. And this is my son, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, so what's wrong with you? He goes, Dad, I'm mad. I'm like, okay. I'm a backup right guard, Dad. I'm like, okay. I don't want to be a backup right guard. I want to be a linebacker. I want to be a tight end. I want to be a wide receiver. Okay, let me ask you a question. Have you ever played organized tackle football before? No. You think your coaches know that? Well, yeah, it's okay. The way I see it, you've got two options here. One is you can keep whining and you can ride the bench the entire season. Or Monday, when you show up for practice, you can strap your helmet on and you can hit the guy across from you in the mouth. And the next play, hit him harder. And the next play, hit him harder. You can show your coaches through your actions, not through your talking, not through your mouth. You can show your coaches that you're ready for a promotion. So Monday, I go pick him up at practice. He's a freshman playing JV, right? Mm-hmm. So the varsity coach comes clear across, Mark Carlson's his name. The varsity coach comes clear across the, Mr. Litton. Yeah? He goes, who's that? I said, that's my son Michael. He goes, he doesn't play like him. What happened between last Friday and today? I said, well, we had a talk. He said, keep talking to him. Okay? By his fourth game, he was starting right guard, starting special teams, starting inside linebacker, and had been voted captain of the team.
Wow.
I'm not joking.
Wow.
Right?
That's great.
And so he finishes his freshman campaign as a JV, right? They promote him. They have their first playoff game in school history. Varsity does. They promote him to varsity. They make him starting special teams. They lose. Okay, they lose their first, playoff game. And so we're driving home from Campo. You know where Campo is? Mm-hmm. Mountain Empire was where the playoff game was. We're driving home. We're freezing. Like there was literally sleet going sideways. We're trying to thaw out in my F-150, my new one, right?
Right.
We're driving along. Michael's in the back. I said, so are you excited about next year? Because the coaches kept coming up to me and going, we can't wait to make this kid varsity next year. We can't, he's got so much promise, and he's going to be a sophomore, right? And I said, you excited about next year? Nope. I asked why? He goes, Dad, I don't want to play football anymore. Playing football made me love basketball even more, and I want to play basketball full time if that's okay. And I never told my kids what they could or couldn't do, ever. Like I never said, you will do this, you know what I mean?
Right.
I told them what was wrong and right and wrong, of course, right? But not what extracurricular activities or what subject to take or whatever they did, they had to rise to our standard. And he's like, I knew I had to give it everything I had. I knew I had to finish strong. But he said, Dad, I don't like getting hit. And I don't like being yelled at. Okay, well, welcome to football, right?
Right, yeah.
That's exactly what happens every day, right? And so he quits football his freshman year, which turned out to be a blessing in disguise because I was cross-eyed and drooling the entire time he was playing. You spend your whole life protecting him.
Right.
And then you watch people hit him, right? And you're like, yeah. So anyway, but yeah, I mean, that was, you know what I mean? So yeah, I know what you're talking about. So you go to college. Where do you go to college?
University of Nevada, Reno.
Isn't that awesome?
Yeah.
I love it, man.
Yeah.
Part of the Wolfpack. This is cool.
Part of the Wolfpack.
So what do you major in college?
So my major changed a couple times, and actually the story getting to Nevada is actually an interesting story. So throughout high school, even before high school, like my dream was to fly F-14s.
Ooh, okay.
Because I saw Top Gun when I was a kid, and I was sold.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, I could still watch that movie daily and never get sick of it.
What did you think of Maverick?
I liked it.
Did you?
I did like it. I thought
they did a good job.
I think they did a good job. I still like the first one a little better.
I do too.
But it was good.
I do too.
It's a good movie. But that's what I want. Like every book report I ever did as a kid was on the F-14 Tomcat. It didn't matter what class it was. I was talking about that airplane. Cool. That was my life. So in high school, the thing it is, I joined the junior ROTC program and got super involved with that. And as I got more and more entrenched,
so was it Air Force?
It was an Army ROTC program at my school.
Okay.
And we had, I think at the time we had 8 schools in the district. So got involved with that and started excelling in the ROTC program and understanding where I was headed dream-wise. The military academies were really what was going to slot me for what I wanted to do.
Right.
So that's what I started gearing up for. I started understanding, okay, how do I get into the military academy? So playing sports, student government, music, like you got to do everything, and you got to do it well.
Yeah, you do.
And so that's what I did all through high school. I mean, I did it all as well as I could. And in ROTC, I got up to like the top rank. So I was in charge. I was the brigade commander. So I was in charge of all 8 schools.
Oh, cool.
And with that came a military academy nomination. So I got nominated to West Point.
Okay.
But I also went in front of congressmen and senators, and I got nominations there too. So as a graduating senior, I was nominated to every service academy.
Wow.
So I had my pick.
Wow.
So I thought.
That's awesome, dude.
Air Force, Navy, Coast Guard, Merchant Marine, and Army.
Yeah.
West Point. So
which one flies F-14s?
the Navy.
The Navy, okay.
So that was my number one pick. But I
Okay.
thought, you know what? If that didn't work out, Air Force kind of be fine because they fly fighters too. So
Sure.
like either way, I got a good chance. Well, at that time in my life, like I was just a bad test taker, and they require SAT scores to be, I think it was 1100 combined score, and you can take as many times as you want. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So
That's a pretty high score.
Pretty high score, and I took it several times, and my highest was like 1,050, and I just couldn't get there. And so I remember talking to one of the reps, and they were like, "What you should do is go to the prep academy."
Okay.
And being 18 and knowing everything in the world,
Right,
I thought,
and being bulletproof.
I thought, well, how dare I downgrade myself to a prep academy?
Right.
You know, that's so beneath me.
Right.
That's how I felt at the time. So anyways, I didn't go to the prep academy, and so I was just kind of bummed and down on my luck, and I was like, well, I'll give this another try, and I'll go to college at the local university, and I'll do all the things I knew to do in high school as far as involvement and grades and all the stuff, and I will kick butt at school, and I'll go again.
Right.
And so I thought, okay, I'll give it my all I got. So freshman year, I was in student government, played in the university jazz band, joined a fraternity, had a part-time job, took 15 credits, got all A's. Like, I applied again. Congressional nomination, Naval Academy, Air Force Academy. Like, bingo. Now I pick.
Right.
They come back, your SAT scores aren't high enough. I'm like, SAT scores? I just knocked it out of the park in college.
Right.
What are you talking about?
Right.
Sorry, this is the standard. You either meet it or you don't.
Kidding me.
So I was totally bummed.
Yeah, you were. I'm bummed just listening to this.
I'm like, my dreams are shattered at this point. I'm like, what in the world am I going to do? No idea what I'm going to do. And
that would have been rough.
So I was pretty bummed, and so at the time my major was civil engineering. So being a guy that hates math, I didn't realize that was not the right choice. My best buddy was.
I was going to say math.
My best buddy was doing civil engineering, so I thought, hey, what the heck? You're smart. I'll do what you do. But so then around like I think it was that spring semester, or toward the end of that fall semester, my dad says to me, he says, "Hey, what do you think about the Nevada Air National Guard?" He goes, "A bunch of my classmates went to UNR, and they flew, at the time it was F4s in the Guard there, and my goal was to fly fighters till I was done in the military and then go fly commercial. That was the dream, right?" And he's like, "They all did exactly what you want to do, and they did it here local." I'm like,
"It's an idea.
That doesn't sound half bad."
Yeah.
I said, "Okay, well, what do I got to do?" He goes, "Let me see if any of my buddies are still in." He's like, "They're all kind of old now, so they might not, but maybe we got a connection or something."
Yeah.
I said, "Okay." So calls a few of his buddies, and they're all out. He says, "Oh, but Vonderheide, Steve Vonderheide, yeah, he's still in. You got to give that guy a call." My dad went to school with him.
Yeah.
So he calls him up. "Hey, what's up, man? You know?" And he's like, "Hey, yeah, why don't you and Jason come down to the base, meet me here this day, whatever."
Cool.
So we go down to the base and meet him. He's a one-star general in charge of all guard operations for the state of Nevada.
Oh my gosh.
He's just dad's buddy from college, right?
Not a bad guy to know.
So I'm like, oh crap, okay, that's not intimidating.
Just a little.
So anyway, we meet him, and he gives us a tour of the base. We start talking about stuff and what I want to do and everything else. And he says, "Well," he goes, "the job you really need to have is this job here, airfield management, base ops, because you get to engage with the pilots all the time." And the way we get pilots here in the Guard is we have a selection committee every year, and he's like, the pilots are the ones on the committee, so you want to know them.
Yeah.
So I'm like,
win them over.
Sign me up.
Sure.
He's like, all right. So we go over there and we meet the section leader and everything, and he's like, we don't have an open spot here. Like we have one too many in that spot. And I was like, oh man, another like roadblock. You know? And so we finished going. He goes, let me do some thinking on this. He's like, why don't you give me a call in about a week? Okay, sir, no problem. Well, in the meantime, I joined the Army ROTC program at Nevada because they only have Army.
Okay.
I was like, well, worst case scenario, I'll fulfill my desire to serve, and I'll be in the Army, which wasn't my top choice, but I was like, probably not going to.
But you'll graduate and you'll be an officer,
but
right?
I'll be an officer,
So, yeah.
right? So I was doing that program, and they had promised me a scholarship, and then didn't fulfill it. So I was kind of in a pissed off scenario with their ROTC program.
Wow.
And so a week later,
Why wouldn't they fulfill it? Did they give you a reason?
I can't remember anymore.
I'm sorry.
They did give me like $500, but it was supposed to be a bigger scholarship than that.
Yeah.
And here I am, like the top ROTC candidate in the whole county,
Yeah.
coming in like with all my goals and dreams to be a career military guy, right? And so anyways,
This isn't adding up. I mean,
it just was totally fizzling, and I'm like, gosh, like my whole like desire to be in the military is just literally crumbling. And I'm the only person in my family that's ever served, so I didn't have like dad or grandpa or anybody who had that military experience and kind of knew the path.
Yeah.
So I didn't have that mentorship, which would have been helpful
Sure.
at this juncture. But anyways, that week goes by, and we call up the general, and he said, well, I got news for you. I said, okay, sir, what is that? He says, there's now an opening in airfield management base operations. He goes, basic training's in May, get your there.
Wow. Wow.
So
yeah, buddy.
I'm like, all right, here we go. So
an opening.
That summer between my freshman year and my sophomore year of college, I went to basic training and did my tech school, and it happened to just fit right in summer break, so I didn't miss a beat with school. Came right back in, went to school, and started in the National Guard.
Perfect.
And doing college at the same time.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
We hope you enjoyed another episode of the Mike Litton Experience. If you did, do us a favor, smash that subscribe button, tell your friends, family, and coworkers about our program, and wherever you get your podcasts, please leave us a rating. It helps us to connect with quality people just like you.
And that's a wrap. Another episode of the Mike Litton Experience in the books. Reach out to Mike on Instagram at Litton Realty. Want to meet with Mike? Check out calendly.com/Rio760.